Your English podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Your English podcast, the best way to improve your English. Today, we're jumping into a deep dive on a challenge I think many of you listening face. Learning English when you feel like you have absolutely no time.
Yeah, it's a big one. Let's be real, a busy lifestyle, that's just reality for so many people, isn't it? And that feeling of, time scarcity,
Yeah.
it can really put the brakes on learning progress.
It really can. But what's interesting and what we found looking through the research for this deep dive is maybe it's less about huge blocks of study time.
Exactly. The studies, the articles, they consistently point towards consistency.
Hmm.
Regular exposure and practice, even in short bursts. That seems arguably more critical for actually acquiring and holding on to the language.
Right. So even those little 5-10 minute sessions, they add up
They
significantly.
really do.
So our mission here today is to explore some practical, real-world strategies. Stuff straight from the source material on how you can weave English learning into the fabric of your already packed day.
We're looking at how to build a system that actually works for you, something sustainable. So learning feels less like, another chore you have to cram in and more like a natural part of your life.
Okay. And this deep dive, it's pulling insights from a few areas, right?
Yeah, language learning methodology, naturally, but also productivity hacks, studies on habit formation. We'll specifically look at integrating English when you're moving, like commuting,
Okay.
during household tasks, cooking, cleaning, that sort of thing. How to leverage social media, and even just handling general daily life stuff.
Sounds good. Let's kick off with that first one then. Using time while you're mobile, on the move, commuting, walking, maybe exercising. This time can feel really passive, can't it?
It often does, but the material we reviewed suggests it's a potential gold mine. What's fascinating is how audio content just transforms that passive time into active input.
How so?
Well, sources suggest listening to English podcasts like this one, or
Wow.
audiobooks, or even just English music during your commute or while you exercise. It really helps with listening comprehension, picking up the natural rhythm of the language.
Yeah, I can see that.
And some studies even hint at a link between physical activity and like enhanced cognitive function.
Yeah.
So your brain might actually be more receptive to language input during that time. Potentially.
That's really interesting. It shifts your mindset, doesn't it? From
Yeah.
just zoning out on the bus or whatever to actively engaging with English.
Precisely. It's about making those transition moments productive, turning what might feel like wasted minutes into valuable exposure, and building that consistent habit the sources keep emphasizing.
Right, that consistency piece again. Okay, so what about when you're not moving? When you're stuck at home doing the things you have to do anyway, like cleaning or cooking?
Ah, yes. This is a perfect opportunity for what you might call multitasking learning. Put on an English podcast or an audiobook while you're cleaning. That's an easy one.
Makes sense.
Or when you're cooking, maybe try following a recipe video that's in English. Our notes highlighted examples like creating your grocery list in English or simple meal plans. It's practical writing practice, vocabulary building in context.
I remember reading somewhere about someone who would like literally narrate their cleaning process out loud. in English.
Mm.
Now I'm wiping the counter. Sounds a bit silly, maybe.
But it works. It forces you to actually think in English, to use the language in real time about something concrete, something tangible right in front of you.
Yeah, okay.
It's all about turning that routine into practice. Using English for these, well, mundane tasks kind of anchors the language to practical actions, makes it feel more intuitive over time, less abstract.
Okay, moving beyond the physical tasks, social media, that's where a lot of us spend, let's face it, a significant chunk of time. How can we make that count towards English learning?
Well, the material points out that instead of just, mindless scrolling, you can consciously curate your feed.
How do you mean?
Follow English-speaking content creators you like, or news outlets in English, maybe educational accounts that are relevant to your interests or your job. You could join language exchange groups online or forums.
And here's a key point, I think, from what we read. Don't just be passive. Don't just consume.
Exactly. Actively participate. That's crucial. Comment on posts in English. Try writing your own short updates or thoughts in English. Maybe even try journaling publicly if you feel comfortable. Start small.
Right, because that uses your social media time for actual output practice, speaking or writing, not just listening or reading.
And it provides that authentic exposure and interaction too. So many sources stress how vital that is for developing real fluency. It makes learning social, interactive, and often, frankly, more motivating than just staring at a textbook.
Yeah, definitely more engaging.
Oh.
Okay, finally, let's touch on those really small everyday tasks. The ones that seem kind of insignificant, but they happen constantly throughout the day.
Right. Think about changing your phone's language setting to English or your computer interface. It seems small, but you see those words constantly.
That's a good one. Simple.
Or writing your daily to-do list in English. Even just using English for your simple internal monologue sometimes. Mentally describing actions as you do them during the day. Okay, now I need to make coffee. Just in your head, in English.
It's about immersing yourself,
Yeah.
but subtly. Like consciously reading instructions or labels or signs in English when you encounter them. You're sort of creating this mini English environment within your normal routine.
That's exactly it. It helps automate the language. It makes it feel less like this separate subject you have to study and more like, well, just a tool you naturally use to navigate your day.
So bringing this all together then, circling back, what's the core takeaway from this deep dive into maximizing limited time for English learning?
The absolute T, and it's reinforced across all the material we looked at, is consistency, regularity. Even tiny 5-minute bursts, maybe several times a day, are likely more effective in the long run than one marathon session once a week or whenever you think you have time.
So it's the discipline, really.
Yes. Discipline in integrating English into these existing pockets of time, the commute, the chores, the scrolling. That's what seems to drive long-term progress.
Every little interaction, every word you manage to hear or use, it builds on the last one. It's so important not to get discouraged if progress feels slow. Value the habit itself, the habit of practice. That's the engine.
And by weaving English into your actual daily routine, movement, chores, social media, simple lists, you're building a learning habit that's sustainable. It becomes less about finding more time, which feels impossible for many,
Right.
and more about using the time you already have just differently, more intentionally.
Set small goals, maybe.
Yeah.
Celebrate the small wins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Recognize the progress no matter how incremental it seems.
Remember, every minute of practice brings you closer to fluency. Learn, experiment, and enjoy the process. Perhaps the biggest barrier isn't really the lack of time itself, but maybe underestimating the power of these tiny, consistent efforts we've talked about.
That's a great final thought. Food for thought for everyone listening.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.